The first scream didn't come from a child. It came from a mother trying to shield her son as police cruisers tore across the grass of Druid Hill Park like they were hunting criminals instead of approaching an 8-year-old's birthday party. The joyful noise of laughter, balloons popping, and kids chasing bubbles fell into a stunned silence. Every parent froze. Every child clung to someone. And James Thompson, standing beneath the banner he had spent an hour straightening, felt his heartbeat turn into a warning drum. He'd survived cartel raids, undercover stings, and federal shootouts, but nothing punched fear into him like watching armed officers speed toward the place where his son stood waiting to cut his Spider-Man cake. Lieutenant Sarah Keene stepped out of the first cruiser like a storm wrapped in a uniform. Her boots hit the ground with the rhythm of someone who enjoyed being feared. She scanned the decorations, balloons, paper streamers, folding tables covered with homemade food, and sneered as if the scene personally offended her. Noise violation. Illegal gathering. She barked loud enough for everyone to hear. Break this welfare circus up. Now. Parents stared in disbelief. Kids hid behind legs and picnic coolers. Maya, James' wife, clutched Marcus to her side, whispering, "It's okay. Baby, it's just a misunderstanding." But even she didn't sound convinced. James tried to steady his breathing, his instincts screaming that this wasn't randomness. Not a coincidence. Not a simple complaint. Keene walked straight to the dessert table and, without hesitation, flipped it. The birthday cake flew through the air and crashed against the concrete, exploding in a splatter of chocolate and red icing. Children cried instantly. Gasps rippled across the pavilion. Marcus choked on his breath, staring at the ruin of the cake he'd been dreaming of for weeks. James' fists tightened, but he forced himself still. He couldn't blow his cover. Not here, not now. Not with 30 families around him. "You the one who set this up?" Keene asked, stepping so close he could smell the bitterness in her coffee-stained breath. "You think rules don't apply to you?" James swallowed the fire rising in his chest. "Ma'am, this is a birthday party. The pavilion's reserved. We're not breaking any law." Keene laughed sharply. "You people always have excuses." She kicked a pile of gifts, tearing open wrapping paper and crushing toys beneath her boot. Taxpayers' money wasted on trash. A few community members protested, their voices shaking but brave. Keene turned on them with feral delight. "Anyone else feel like arguing? I can shut this whole place down." James scanned the scene with trained precision. 3 officers. Aggressive posture. Hands too close to their weapons. Pushing for a reaction. Looking for an excuse. And then his phone buzzed. A message from his FBI handler. "Cover may be blown. They're coming for you. Protect your family." His blood turned cold. Sirens screamed in the distance. More cars incoming. Maya grabbed his arm. "James, what's happening?" He couldn't answer. Not yet. His son was staring at him with wide, shaking eyes, silently begging him to fix the world collapsing around them. Keene smirked and reached for her handcuffs. "You're done here. Kneel." For a moment, the world narrowed to a single impossible choice: protect his cover or protect his son. And when Keene grabbed Marcus by the arm, everything inside James snapped. He rose. Slowly. Quietly. Terrifyingly calm. And for the first time, Keene hesitated. For a heartbeat, the park held its breath. James stood frozen between fury and discipline, his body stiff with the instinct to protect and the training to stay silent. Lieutenant Keene didn't notice the shift yet. She was too busy yanking Marcus forward like he was evidence instead of an 8-year-old boy. Marcus stumbled, crying out as her fingers dug into his arm. A chorus of parents gasped, some filming through trembling hands. "Let my son go," James said, his voice low enough to vibrate through the air. It wasn't loud, but it cut deeper than any shout. Even Keene paused, studying him with narrowed eyes. She'd expected fear, surrender, rage she could weaponize. But the stillness she saw now was different, controlled, deliberate, dangerous. "Oh, you're one of those fathers," she mocked, tightening her grip on Marcus. "The heroic type. Let's see how heroic you are in cuffs." Her officers chuckled as if trained to echo her cruelty. One of them, Officer Randall, stepped behind James, positioning himself like a shadow ready to strike. Maya moved fast, pulling Marcus from Keene's grip and placing herself between her child and the officers. Keene smirked as if enjoying a game. Interference. That's another charge. James didn't move. He watched everything, Angles, weapons, exits, the distance between officers and civilians. He was calculating, but also breaking inside. His cover could handle danger. His mission could handle threats. But his family couldn't. More sirens approached. 2, maybe 3 cars. He felt the world tightening around them like a closing fist. Keen stepped closer. On your knees. Now. In front of your boy. Her voice was poison. Her purpose was humiliation. James met her gaze. No. The single syllable froze her smile. No, she repeated. You don't get to say no. She shoved him hard, trying to force him down, but James barely shifted. His body remained rooted, unmoved. She tried again, harder. Nothing. That's when her expression changed from amusement to suspicion. You think you're special? She hissed. Some kind of soldier? Silence answered her. Officer Randall circled closer, his hand sliding toward his taser. A subtle nod from Keen signaled he was seconds away from firing. Maya's voice cracked through the tension. Please. There are children here. Keen ignored her and leaned in close to James. Kneel, or we escalate. James slowly lifted his hands, an act that looked like surrender but wasn't. It was preparation. His thumb brushed the side of his watch, activating a hidden emergency beacon embedded in the band. A silent distress signal sent directly to the FBI field office. Keen didn't notice. She was too busy trying to break him. Face down, hands behind your head. James stayed standing, and the sirens grew louder. Keen snapped her fingers. Randall hit him. But before the officer could fire, a terrified wail cut the air, Marcus breaking free from Maya and running toward his father, tears streaming, his small voice trembling with desperation. Daddy, please don't let them take you. The plea hit harder than any weapon. James stepped forward, instinct overriding every protocol. Keen moved too, grabbing for Marcus again. But James intercepted, blocking her with a single, precise shift of his body. Her eyes widened. She felt it. His reflexes, his training, his control. Who are you? She whispered, for the first time sounding unsure. James didn't answer. Behind them, 3 more cruisers screeched into the park. Keen raised her chin, mistaking the backup for victory. Good, she said coldly. Now you're really finished. But James wasn't looking at the cruisers. He was looking at the sky. Listening. Waiting. Maya sensed it too. James, what did you do? He took Marcus gently from her arms, holding his son tight against his chest. I bought us time, he whispered. Then the sound came, faint at first, then unmistakable. A distant thumping. Rhythmic. Heavy. Helicopters. Keen spun around, confused. Why would they send? James finally met her eyes, calm and unblinking. You're not the only one who can call backup. The thumping grew louder, vibrating through the grass, rattling the ruined gift boxes and sending loose napkins swirling like frightened birds. Parents looked up with wide, confused eyes. Keen's officers exchanged uncertain glances. No local police helicopter sounded like that. Too heavy, too fast, too coordinated. Who called air support? Officer Randall muttered. Keen snapped. Nobody. Dispatch didn't authorize. She stopped mid-sentence when she saw the silhouette emerging from behind the tree line. A black tactical helicopter, sleek and unmistakably federal. It descended with deliberate authority, rotor wash tearing through the streamers still hanging from the pavilion. Maya shielded Marcus as dust and leaves whipped around them. James, what is happening? James didn't move, didn't flinch. His expression was steady in a way that frightened even the parents who trusted him. Just hold Marcus, he whispered. And stay close. Keen finally found her voice. You think that's for you? She yelled over the wind, her confidence cracking. Federal air units don't deploy for birthday party arrests. Another rotor sound echoed. A second helicopter. Then a third. The officers went pale. This isn't normal, Randall stammered, stepping back. Keen forced a laugh that didn't sound like laughter at all. Probably some training exercise. But no training exercise descended directly onto a public park with tactical precision. One of the helicopters dropped a fast rope line, and black-clad agents slid down with smooth, practiced ease. Their uniforms bore unmistakable lettering. FBI, Federal Tactical Response Unit. Keen took 2 involuntary steps backward. No, this isn't real. Agent Sarah Carter, sharp-eyed, calm, and unmistakably in command, approached with 2 agents flanking her. Where is he? She demanded. James finally stepped forward. I'm here. Carter exhaled with visible relief. Agent Thompson, we got your emergency beacon. Are you and your family unharmed? A stunned silence fell. Keen's jaw dropped. Randall blinked. Parents stared at James like they were seeing a stranger and a savior at the same time. Agent Thompson? James. The man who fixed porch steps, carried groceries for neighbors, and taught kids how to ride bikes? James didn't break eye contact with Carter. My cover is compromised. These officers threatened my wife and child. They escalated force on civilians and attempted unlawful detainment. Carter nodded sharply to her team. Secure the perimeter. Detain all hostile officers. The shift was instant. FBI agents moved like a tide, surrounding Keen's unit before they could react. Keen stumbled back, voice cracking. This is a mistake. You can't just, he's lying. This man attacked us. James calmly reached into his pocket, retrieving the badge she had stomped into the dirt earlier. He wiped the dried frosting from the gold shield and held it up. Special Agent James Thompson, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Every parent watching felt a shock travel through them. This man had eaten at their tables, attended their church, carried their children, protected them quietly for 8 months. And he had done it while wearing 2 identities. Keen shook her head frantically, words tumbling out in panic. That badge was fake. He had a fake badge. Carter glared at her. Lieutenant Keen, you are addressing one of our top undercover agents. Keen's mouth fell open. James stepped closer, voice calm but edged with steel. You threw my federal credentials into birthday cake. A few parents choked on disbelieving laughter through their tears. Officer Randall raised trembling hands, his voice cracking. We didn't know. We were just following. No, Carter cut him off. You were following criminal impulse. And you're all going to answer for it. Keen snapped, desperate. You have no jurisdiction. Actually, Carter said, signaling 2 agents forward. We've had jurisdiction for 8 months. Keen froze. James continued. This investigation ends today. The FBI agents seized Keen's arms. She fought wildly, screaming. This is entrapment. This is harassment. You can't do this. James met her fury with a level gaze. You should have thought of that before you grabbed my son. Her face went blank, no longer powerful, no longer feared. Just afraid. Families began to cry, not from fear anymore, but from release. From safety. From justice finally landing in their laps like a long-delayed sunrise. Marcus peeked over Maya's shoulder and whispered, Daddy, you're really a hero? James pulled his son close and exhaled brokenly into his hair. I'm your dad first. A hero second. Above them, the helicopters circled like guardians. And for the first time that day, the park felt safe again. The moment Keen was handcuffed, the park transformed. The fear that had choked the air minutes earlier began to dissolve, replaced by a trembling sort of hope. Parents who had been frozen now inched closer, holding their children, whispering prayers of thanks or stunned disbelief. The FBI agents moved efficiently, collecting statements, securing evidence, and isolating the 3 officers who had arrived with Keen. Each wore the same confused expression, a dawning horror at realizing they were pawns in a much bigger downfall. Agent Carter turned to James, her voice shifting from command to concern. We need to extract your family. Your cover is fully blown and your field identity is now public. Are you injured? Just tired, James replied. My family needs space. And these people need answers. Maya stepped forward, fingers laced tightly with Marcus's small hand. James, how long? Her voice trembled, not with anger, but with the weight of knowing the truth at last. James swallowed hard. 8 months undercover. Trying to expose what Keen's been doing. Trying to protect this neighborhood without revealing myself. Maya closed her eyes, relief and sorrow mingling in her expression. You should have told me. I couldn't. The case was too big and too dangerous. He brushed a thumb across her cheek. But I'm done hiding now. Agent Carter cleared her throat softly. Agent Thompson, we need a quick incident summary on record before we relocate you. James nodded and turned to face her, the exhaustion settling behind his eyes. Lieutenant Keen escalated on civilians without cause. Threatened minors. Attempted unlawful detainment of my family. Destroyed private property. And used intimidation tactics consistent with the patterns we've been tracking for months. Carter's jaw tightened. Exactly what we feared. Her entire unit has been operating like a rogue militia. Nearby, Keen sat at the base of a tree, cuffed and furious. She glared at James with a venom that would have once shaken communities, but now looked powerless. "You think this makes you a hero?" she spat. "You destroyed everything." James didn't react to her rage. "You destroyed these families long before you ever touched mine." The words struck her harder than any force. Parents began to approach, hesitantly at first. Mrs. Harper, whose 2 boys often played at James' house, clutched her hands to her chest. You lived here all this time, helping us, fixing our fences, coming to church. And all that time, James offered a small, apologetic smile. "I wasn't pretending to care. That part was real. Thank you," she whispered, tears forming, "for protecting us when no one else did." Others echoed her gratitude. Quiet words, trembling voices, relief pouring out like a flood that had waited too long. Keen watched with growing panic. This was more than an arrest. This was a shattering of the power she'd built through fear. "We're not done," she shouted. "The department will back us. You don't understand how this works." Agent Carter approached her with a level stare. "Lieutenant, your department has been under federal investigation for 8 months. You were the first piece, not the last." Keen's face drained of all color. Carter continued, "Your communications, financials, and internal reports were monitored. We know everything. Your deals, your intimidation tactics, your false arrests. You're finished." Keen lunged forward, restrained only by the cuffs digging into her wrists. "You can't tear down a department with one case." "We're not tearing it down," Carter said. "We're cleansing it." As agents logged evidence, a sound rose from the far side of the park, someone crying. It was Marcus' cousin, who had watched his birthday gifts destroyed, now clutching what remained of his Spider-Man balloons. James walked over, kneeling beside him. "I'm sorry you saw all that," James said gently. "Adults should protect kids, not scare them." The child sniffled. "Are those police going to hurt anyone else?" James shook his head. "No. Today was the last time." He lifted the boy into a hug, and the sight softened even the exhausted agents nearby. Maya watched, her heart heavy but proud. "You carried all of this alone for months," she whispered. "Now let us carry some too." James nodded slowly, the weight finally lifting. Agent Carter signaled her team. "We're taking the corrupt officers into federal custody. Thompson family, stand by for relocation." But before James left the park, he turned to the gathered parents. "You trusted me without knowing who I was," he said. "Now that you do, I hope you'll trust me even more." Mrs. Harper stepped forward, wiping tears. "We will, because you trusted us first." Keen screamed after him, desperation echoing through the park, but no one listened anymore. Her power was gone, her voice hollow. As James walked away with his family, surrounded by agents, the parents formed a small, protective path for them, silent and grateful. For the first time that day, the fear was gone, and justice had only just begun. News didn't need hours, it needed minutes. By the time the FBI loaded Keen and her officers into armored vehicles, half the parents had already posted clips online. Within 10 minutes, the videos exploded across social platforms like wildfire. Hashtags multiplied, comments flooded, and every share added heat to a story that the city had ignored for years. At the safe house, James sat beside Maya while Marcus slept curled against her lap. The boy had cried himself into exhaustion. James brushed a hand over his son's hair, the guilt hitting him again and again like aftershocks. He hadn't wanted this truth to come out like a grenade. He wanted Marcus to find out someday gently, maybe when he was old enough to understand. But instead, the world had taken that moment from him, twisting it into something violent and unforgettable. Agent Carter entered the room, carrying a tablet. "You need to see this." James took it reluctantly. The first video showed Keen flipping the birthday table, captured from 3 angles. The second clip showed her grabbing Marcus. The third, James speaking into his phone, revealing his badge. And the comments. Instant karma at its finest. "This officer needs life in prison. That kid deserves a new birthday every week. Protect this family at all costs." Maya covered her mouth, overwhelmed. "This is everywhere." Carter nodded. "Every major news station is running it. This isn't a local incident anymore. It's national." James exhaled slowly. "That won't make the department happy." "That department lost the right to be happy years ago," Carter replied quietly. A knock sounded at the door. Agent Rodriguez, the tech specialist, entered with a grave expression. "Sir, we found something." James straightened. "What?" Rodriguez set a laptop on the table. "Internal police chatter leaked. Officers panicking about you. About the investigation. They're trying to erase files. Some trying to flee." Carter added, "We intercepted attempted data wipes. Good thing we mirrored their systems weeks ago." But the most chilling part wasn't the panic. It was the messages showing how long the corruption had been running. A thread from a group chat read, "Keene overdid it this time. She picked the wrong man. Feds have been sniffing around. We were warned." James's stomach twisted. "They suspected me before the birthday?" Carter nodded grimly. "Your cover was fraying. The birthday party wasn't random. It was a pressure point. They were testing you." Maya's eyes widened in horror. "Using our son?" James clenched his jaw. "They wanted to force a reaction. Either to break me or expose me." Rodriguez scrolled to another message, one that made Maya shiver. "Take the kid if necessary. Thompson will fold." She trembled, pulling Marcus closer even though he slept. "They would have taken him?" "Yes," Carter said softly. "They've done it before to other families." The room fell silent. Then Carter added, "And they're about to answer for all of it." Across Baltimore, the FBI executed coordinated raids on homes, offices, vehicles, and safe houses used by Keene's network. Televisions in the safe house broadcast live footage of corrupt officers being taken into custody, one after another, their badges removed, their faces pale and shattered. Maya watched the screen, tears slipping silently. "Those officers, they walk through our streets every day. And now," Carter said, "they won't walk anywhere without shackles." But the storm wasn't only legal, it was emotional. The community that had trusted James as a friend now discovered he'd been undercover. Parents posted videos crying with gratitude. Teens created edits calling him the real-life superhero dad. Children drew fan art of him holding Marcus with FBI helicopters overhead. And yet, James felt no triumph. Only weight. Heavy and human. That evening, Marcus woke up groggy. "Is the birthday over?" he whispered. James hugged him tightly. "No, buddy. It's just beginning." The boy smiled sleepily. "Can we make a new cake? A big one? And invite everyone again?" James exchanged a look with Maya. "Yes, I promise you. We'll make it the biggest birthday party this city has ever seen." Before they could say more, Carter rushed back into the room. "Agent Thompson, turn on the news." He did. A press conference live from Baltimore Police Headquarters filled the screen. The police union president tried to defend the arrested officers, but behind him, protesters held up phones replaying Keene's cruelty on loop. Reporters shouted questions. Parents demanded accountability. Someone held a sign reading, "Know your place, prison." The city was no longer fearful. It was awakened. Maya whispered, "This isn't just about us anymore." James nodded. "No, this is about fixing a system." And somewhere in the city, watching the same news, dozens of officers who had never expected consequences were beginning to feel fear for the first time. The kind of fear they had forced on innocent families for years. The courthouse steps overflowed with people. Families, reporters, activists, teachers, elders, and children who had all lived under the shadow of corrupt policing. But today was different. Today, sunlight poured over them like a blessing. Today, they stood not in fear, but in victory. James held Maya's hand as they walked through the crowd. Marcus perched proudly on his shoulders wearing a fresh Spider-Man shirt. The boy waved at kids who recognized him from the viral clips. For weeks, the city had been waiting for this day, the sentencing of Lieutenant Keene and her officers, the final chapter of an 8-month undercover mission, and the beginning of a new chapter for Baltimore. Inside the packed courtroom, Judge Halstead read through the charges with solemn precision. "Lieutenant Sarah Keene," he said, voice steady, "you abused your badge, your authority, and your oath. You inflicted fear where you were sworn to bring safety. You destroyed families instead of protecting them." Keene sat shackled, her once cold stare replaced by a hollow defeat. Her eyes flicked to James for a moment, not with anger, but with the realization that the world she built had finally collapsed. James gave no reaction. He simply held Marcus's hand. Judge Halstead continued, "Given the evidence, the recordings, and the testimonies, this court sentences you to 24 years in federal custody." A quiet gasp rippled through the room. Some wept. Some silently nodded in agreement. Justice didn't always roar. Sometimes it arrived quietly, firmly, undeniably. One by one, the remaining officers received their sentences: 15 years, 18 years, 12. Consequences that echoed far beyond the courtroom. And then came the moment no one expected. Special Agent James Thompson, the judge said, glancing toward him. Before we conclude, this court acknowledges your extraordinary service. You risked your life, your family, and your identity to protect a community you could have easily walked away from. James lowered his head respectfully. You've given this city something it hasn't had in a long time. Proof that justice can still stand against corruption. Outside, the crowd erupted as the convicted officers were escorted into federal vans. Cameras clicked. Reporters shouted. Children clapped. A woman shouted, "Thank you, James," and others joined her in a chorus of gratitude. But for James, one moment stood above all the noise. An elderly woman, Mrs. Washington, walking toward him with her cane, eyes bright with pride. "Son," she said, voice trembling, "you didn't just save us. You made us visible." James hugged her gently. "You all saved me too. This community gave me a home." Nearby, Marcus tugged on his father's sleeve. "Daddy, can we have my birthday party now?" James and Maya exchanged a soft smile. "Yes, baby," she said. "A real one." 2 weeks later, the park that once held fear now held joy. Hundreds gathered for Marcus's Justice birthday, a celebration the whole city claimed as their own. FBI agents mingled with families, blowing bubbles and carrying coolers. Officers from the newly reformed police department helped set up tables. Music played. Kids ran freely. At the center stood a massive Spider-Man cake, 3 tiers tall, decorated with the words, "Happy birthday, Marcus, Justice won." Marcus laughed as everyone sang. He closed his eyes to make a wish, then whispered, "I wish nobody ever gets hurt at a birthday party again." James felt his throat tighten. He lifted his son into a hug. "That's a good wish, champ." Maya kissed Marcus's cheek, tears forming. "That's the best wish." As the sun began to set, Agent Carter approached James quietly. "There's a promotion waiting for you in D.C. They want you to lead a national task force on police corruption." James looked at Maya, then at the families laughing around them. "I'll take it," he said, "but I'm not leaving Baltimore. This city deserves a protector who won't walk away." Carter smiled. "Then we'll build the task force right here." Later that night, as fireworks lit up the sky, James wrapped an arm around Maya and watched their son dance with other kids beneath the glowing bursts. Healing wasn't quick. It wasn't simple, but it had begun, and it started with a birthday party, a destroyed cake, a single phone call, and a father who refused to kneel.